There are hedge fund managers making $1 million an hour. You know, it's crazy, right? It's money everywhere. It's money in everything. I want to help you. Start your business today. Come join my royal family. Subscribe to Casino Is the Name. Hey, yo, what's going on right now? You watching Casino Is the Name. I'm sitting here with my cousin PJ, and we wanted to talk to you guys about the economic impact of the coronavirus. So many of you may know the stock market has plummeted. I mean, it is tanked. I have a homegirl who's lost about $35,000 so far in the stock market crash. And I mean, life as you know it, pretty much for the United States, pretty much for most of the world actually, is going to change after this. There's so many things that have to change with the supply chain management, with medical practices, travel. It's so many things that are going to change. Anything you want to say?
You know, we are aware that right now we have a global pandemic going on.
Thanks.
With this coronavirus. And this virus has been around for a long time, if we could really get down to it. In 2012, in Saudi Arabia, they had a case where they classified it as an upper respiratory infection, but it has the similar symptoms as the coronavirus now. So my thing is, and you could find that article off of...
So in case you guys don't know, he is like he's working on being a health scientist, so he's been to school for this. I don't know much about the actual health side as far as the science side, but he's done plenty of research on this kind of thing or whatever, so you can tell him what the article is.
So my thing is, you might want to just go look at some articles from like the NHS and the NIH, because of the fact that those are articles that you can really get into like the biomedical side of this coronavirus, which is going to be a extremely high market pretty soon because of the fact that pharmaceutical companies are going to be able to capitalize off of this.
Yes.
So in certain sectors right now, could say that the stock market is plummeting and we may be going into a recession.
Right.
But certain markets, supply and demand,
the health market is going to skyrocket. And like it's going to be so much money made in the health fields. So like even just like let's look at the areas that are going to have like the biggest changes coming. Travel is going to have a huge change. Yeah. Healthcare is going to have a huge change. I'm not saying it's going to be good or bad. I'm just saying that there's going to be a lot of movement in these areas. So travel, as we can see, Delta just announced that they're canceling flights, and you know we see the cheap flights right now. Gas is super cheap right now. So many things, like even just basic travel. If people aren't flying and people aren't driving to different places or whatever, like they're trying to quarantine areas off and everything. So with so many people not traveling, the hospitality fields, the hotels are also not really going to be very profitable. It's so many things that are going to be affected. When I'm saying every industry is going to be touched, because you were talking about, you were talking about one area, and I can't remember what area you were talking about.
I remember I was saying healthcare for one thing, and the food industry. Yeah, and
it was something else though. Because basically, just because your industry may not be affected, other industries are. Because you were talking about manufacturing and something else. I can't remember what you were saying.
I think it was hospitality and manufacturing industries. Those were the ones that I was talking about.
So just because your industry isn't affected, it will eventually be affected because other people in another industry are going to also be affected, right?
Yeah.
So if you're in the car sales and you sell cars, right? So if the people who work at the hotels or work for Delta are doing less hours and receiving less money because of that, that trickles down to every industry. No matter what industry you're in, it's going to trickle down. But there are other industries that will see a rise. Hand sanitizer, there's not enough. There's not enough hand sanitizer. There's not enough tissue in stores right now. Like all of these things, people are going to stockpile. They're going to buy way more than they need or way more than they have previously and things like that. It's so many things that are going to, be produced in large quantities.
And that's why I was saying about, like the pharmaceutical research and also like people like Procter & Gamble and Johnson & Johnson, seeing how much that their worth goes in this with this pandemic going
Yeah,
on.
their stocks is definitely gonna rise. Yeah. So, but they're gonna also be so like let's talk about this. Let's talk about saline. Like saline solutions may be produced maybe in places like China. I'm just throwing this out there. I'm not saying that this is exactly how it is, but let's say all of the things that we normally get produced in China, because of the outbreak, trade and everything is affected. Everything coming in, the people who move it, all of that is affected now. It's either slowed down or stopped, right? Mm-hmm. So now if we're in hospitals and we need, I don't know what percentage of hospital patients need to have saline in order to even be alive in the hospital, but now if they're producing these things in places like China or other places that are affected by this outbreak, now they're not able to even bring those solutions in the quantities that we need. And the way supply chain is now set up in the United States, it's set up for you use it, we send you another one, so it's not set up in a way where they just have it stockpiled.
And we can go to something even like a little further, like smaller, like let's say personal protective equipment in the hospital, like gloves. Mm-hmm. Let's just say all the gloves are manufactured in China, like how you were just saying. We're just saying hypothetically,
right?
Saying these things.
So now we're gonna need to actually have other locations where we can receive these like the equipment that we need, depending on what it is. So now we can't just rely on, say, China for importing solutions or gloves or whatever else. We need to have a secondary, third, fourth, fifth location that we can still receive these things. We probably need to have a lot more things homegrown.
That's it.
Yeah. So there will be a lot of new movement in a lot of different areas because we're learning a lot from this whole experience. Right now, every school in the state of Georgia, K through 12, is shut down by the governor.
Yes.
And it will be like that for large other cities and states throughout the United States. And we're going to have to figure out other systems. Right now, there are people who are not prepared. In the military, when we had to mobilize, we had to have what we call a family care plan, right? So if you have to go out and go get activated and mobilized, you have to have a family care plan where you're planning where you're going to take your kid in the event that you have to leave, like overnight. Not daycare, because, when you have to leave, you have to leave. Like, you got to leave the country, you got to put your uniform on, what I'm saying? Got to do all of that. And you're not going to be there to pick your kid up. So you have to have a family care plan where you can take that kid to an aunt or a neighbor until your parent can come from out of town. Because you have to have somewhere you can take them right then, where the child can spend the night for a day or 2 or 3 days until your mother or dad can get to town in order to receive that child. So there are a lot of people right now who still are on the clock to go to work, and they don't have a family care plan because they're regular civilians. They haven't ever had to. They work at a regular job, and right now their job still may require them come in. And so with their job still having required them coming in, they don't have anywhere to take their child because now their child is out of school. So it's so many things. This is going to affect us on so many levels. I don't know how long it's going to take the country to recover, unless of course they're like billionaires who are willing to just support some of the loss that we're going to see in the economy, to balance it back out. But it's so much being lost.
So like I was going about the recession that is projected right now. Probably worse than the 2008 recession that we had.
Oh yeah.
So, and you was mentioning billionaires. So what about hedge funding? Let's talk about that a little bit when it comes to this pandemic that's going on.
So every industry is being affected because we're going to have unlike before, we're going to have a food shortage, which we were already, they were saying we're going to run out of food in like 20 years or 30 years or something like that. I don't remember the exact number of years, but they were saying we're going to run out of food. Right now, we have a halt in so many levels of production, imports, exports. There's such a halt that 2-3 weeks, we cannot survive. And of course we could survive it, but we are not set up to deal with, we have a shortage already in all kinds of things. That's why supply chain management was working, because, it's kind of like you order it when you need it. Right now, we are in dire need for a lot of things, and, it's no clear right now. Even we don't know when schools are going to be like they have a date maybe, but it's still a guess. They may extend it another 8 weeks, or extend it to 8 weeks, because right now it's like 2 weeks, and they were talking about they may extend it to 8 weeks. That will be 2 months with the economy almost at a standstill. And that's crazy.
It seems like this is happening in an overall aspect of the
worldwide,
economy, because of the fact that you just mentioned that we may run out of food in 30 years, but also they're saying that we're in a post-antibiotic era also. Yeah. So antibiotics might not be working in the next 30 years too.
Yeah, facts.
So it seems like that we're going back into the dark ages for a little while.
I don't know if it's dark ages. I don't know if it's just going further into the future, because of course, it's it's just, I mean, at least in the dark ages, they were evolving, right? Yeah. Like they could come up with new things. Right now, we are evolving as far as having to adapt, because now if you get the coronavirus and you survive it, now, you carry along like the DNA that if you produce another child, then that child will be more prone to survival from it. But we just haven't seen this. So we are still evolving and things like that.
So basically it goes back to Darwin's theory of natural selection and survival of the fittest. Yeah.
I don't know anything about, of course I know about Darwin's theories or whatever, but I am not like an evolutionist or anything like that. That's your thing. You the healthcare person. Well, I'm more looking at the the financial side of it, because the thing about life is you can't put a number on it. Okay. Life is vital. So the United States will, and the rest of the world will spend whatever it takes in order to keep their people alive. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? No matter if it's 1 or 2 people, they're going to spend whatever it is, because we have masses of people whose lives are at stake, right? Okay. So healthcare costs, all that kind of stuff, the government is paying for that. The CDC has said we will cover the cost of your recovery. We'll recover the cost of you testing. We're going to pay that, versus your insurance having to pay that, or you having to pay premiums, or people who don't have health insurance and all of those kind of things. So the government is going to eat that cost. We're already trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars in the hole. And what drives the United States is the GDP, gross domestic product. And so with 2 months missing from the GDP, we're already trillions in debt, and we're taking on more. So there's going to have to be changes made on some high levels. We don't want to keep this video too long, but you got anything you want to kind of just talk about real quick before we?
So just one thing, with this coronavirus coming out and it's running so rampant in the world. Yeah. Well, I'm going to rephrase that. It has already been out, but right now it's running real rampant in the world. Yeah. Just remember to sanitize correctly, wash your hands, keep good personal hygiene. Those are great aspects that we should already been practicing in our everyday life, but it can help people, especially older people or people with autoimmune deficiencies that are more acceptable to getting this coronavirus. Mm-hmm. But other than that, you got to understand, you have to treat it like any other virus too at the same time. Go to your doctors, get tested if you feel any signs or symptoms, because you don't want to expose infants and the elderly to this pandemic. And quarantine yourself. If I understand everybody has to make money, but if you're sick and you need to be out of work for 7 to 10 days or more, miss work, because somebody else's livelihood can be impacted because of your negligence, and then you never know who they have at home also. Yeah. So that's all I'm saying, is just be mindful of these things.
Yeah. So it's not so much about you; it's about the people that are affected by you. There's a lot of young people, 21, 22 years old, 18, 19. They're like, I ain't worried about that. It only hurts old people. But we all have old people in our lives, exactly. Right? We all have grandparents or an older parent or a great grandparent or an older friend from church or whatever it is who may not survive an interaction with you, even though you may not even show any signs whatsoever. So it's just to be mindful to try to prevent the spread. So please wash your hands, do whatever measures that you can take. Don't fall for the cheap flights, exactly. Like just because, you don't feel like you want to take that risk to take a $50 flight to the Bahamas or whatever. It may sound fun, but I mean, you just never know. Just be, more cautious about how you move forward.
And I understand how the millennials are saying right now, well, if I'm going to die from something, I want to die on the beach in Maui somewhere. But my thing is, think about this. We're going to be probably less susceptible to this coronavirus. From my knowledge of science and healthcare, I don't take it as too big of a deal. Right. Because, again, I read the necessary peer-reviewed articles on this, and I know how long it has been in place. It's
so you're saying it's been around for about 20 years?
About 20 years. And it could be longer. It's just some of the articles that I have gathered together stemmed from SARS and H1N1 and things like that. And how, and like I was saying, it was one article really that I was looking at about the upper respiratory infection in 2012 in Saudi Arabia, how they was classifying it as close to a case of corona. But think about this. I think around November or December, a lot of people was getting this same upper respiratory infection and getting sick a lot. Yeah. I know in Georgia per se, I seen a lot of people getting it and was having to miss multiple days of work. So think about this. When you think of this thing, that this could have just been a mutation of the pandemic from the start going on.
So you're saying that it's been something similar has been around for 20 years, and it could have just mutated up to where it is now.
Exactly.
Gotcha. So he knows a lot more than I do. I know what I see on the news, and I definitely like do my research and things like that. But he's actually reading research papers on it. I ain't doing all that now. I listen to the experts and things like that. But this guy can actually test. He knows how to test for
certain viruses, doing certain PCR tests and ELISA testing.
Yeah, so he knows how to do all that kind of stuff. I don't know nothing about that. So, it's good that he was here. So we had a pretty good talk about coronavirus and things like that. But just go out there, be safe, wash your hands, and subscribe, like, comment, and share this video.
Beat me up, Scotty.
Me and her together, we just count it up. Money on my mind, I can't get enough. Don't play with my money, you don't want no beef. Cause I come from the bottom, I come from the street. When she first saw me, she say, who is that? When a man saw me, he called me a threat. I'm the one that really live with a rap. They ain't never did it, they ain't really trap. Say you want to be successful. Well, what's stopping you? Can't nothing stop you from being successful except for you. You standing in your own way. I came from the bottom. I ain't know nothing but the grind. You can't tell me nothing about that. I caught the bus at Basin Street Projects in Tallahassee, Florida. You hear me? I used to think $1 million would last me my whole life. I'd have made that and spent that. $1 million ain't enough.
There are hedge fund managers making $1 million an hour. You know, it's crazy, right? It's money everywhere. It's money in everything. I want to help you. Start your business today. Come join my royal family. Subscribe to Casino Is the Name.